Australia is the most amazing country. I've looked at it for 50 years from high altitude. 53 years I've been flying. I've seen its machinations in the way it presents itself naturally as a continent. I've seen its people. I've carried 6 million of its people over 12 million miles in my career. It's one of the most recognisable brands in the world. And Australia is one of the most recognisable countries in the world. Our wildlife is unique. Our people are unique. Our climate is unique. And seeing it from that vantage point's been amazing. Yes, my name's Graham Hood. I'm a 32-year command veteran with Qantas Airways, based in Brisbane at the time. And as a result of the vaccine mandates that were being brought in by the company, I decided I just couldn't go along with that and I had to make a stand. So as a result of that stand, I resigned my command about 2 years ahead of when I wanted to, but it had to be done and I had to say what I had to say. It was difficult in many ways. I remember the day that I wrote my resignation. It was a very sad day. I read the resignation to my wife. It was a heartfelt resignation. And she cried and I cried, and then we hovered over the send button on the computer before I sent it. And when I sent it, I just saw my career disappear. When that email went, I saw it gone, and I spent the whole day with her crying. I'm still a bit emotional about it. At the end of the day, I had friends in Qantas who I worked with over those past 32 years in command there who loved and respected me. They used to love flying with me, and I treated it like a great day out. And they disagreed with what I said, and some of them are quite angry about it. But when I posted on social media that I just resigned and my career was over, the love I got from those people was incredible, even though they disagreed with me. And that's the spirit of Australia. That's who we are. The Anzacs went and fought in the war. They all came from all different backgrounds, but they had one common goal, and that was to fight to protect the rights of their country and to put the mongrels down who were locking people in concentration camps. Australia has changed overnight. I wake up every morning thinking that I'm in a third dimension and that I've been dreaming. I've seen so much freedom just go around the S-bend like somebody pushed a button on it, and I can't believe that we've lost all these freedoms that our Anzacs fought and died for. You know, my father spent 5 years at war in World War II. He fought the fascists and the Nazis in the Middle East, and he came back for a week of furlough and then was sent straight up to New Guinea and fought the Japanese in New Guinea. And he did that so that I wouldn't have to have these conversations. We've been propaganded into a fear that has no basis in reality when we look at the statistics. Sure, everyone's scared of getting sick, but that fear is being generated and pumped out at a massive rate. It's being amplified over and over again by mainstream media and politicians. And our people are capable of anything. And I've seen it. I've been in a grocery store when a man who had a mask pulled down under his nose because he'd just come out of hospital from heart surgery and he could hardly breathe, was pushing a trolley. And he was getting some groceries before he went home from the hospital. And he was assailed by another man. And the guy nearly had a heart attack again in the supermarket. And I had to step in. I mean, we are that close in this country to falling into the trap that the Germans did. I think the greater risk that we run is of a nation turning on itself. That's the greatest fear for me. I don't fear COVID. My wife is a registered nurse and we've got prophylactic treatments and we're taking precautions. I'm going to a plant-based diet. I believe that our biggest issue with health is not so much the bugs getting stronger, it's our immune systems are getting weaker because we're addicted to convenience. We're convenience foods and we don't exercise and we watch reality television, which is about putting people under the pressure cooker. Mainstream media are driving a narrative that is actually killing people and they don't realise it. You'll never see a premier stand up and give stats at the 11 a.m. news conference about how many people took their own lives. I'm speaking to those people. I've been working in welfare for 15 years and I'm involved with other people who work in welfare, and we are seeing a massive increase in suicides and attempts to suicide. Domestic violence has gone through the roof. One woman contacted me after my rant and said that She was about to take her 5-year-old daughter's life and take her own life as well, because she'd been living in domestic violence, locked down with cancer. And then Daniel Andrews comes out and makes another announcement, and she just can't take it anymore. So we spent 2 days tracking her down, and she's going to be okay. And we've arranged for things to happen for her. And she's in regular contact with me. And the one thing she said stopped her from doing it was that after my rant, and amongst the thousands of messages that were coming through, hers stuck out and I responded to her. And she said, if you hadn't responded, I would have done it. Now, mainstream media is driving that, and mainstream media are not telling the truth. Mainstream media reported in some cases that there were only a couple of hundred people at the border when there were nearly 1,800. I mean, if the camera scanned up the hill as the people were marching, it was wall-to-wall white up the hill. And they label everybody as anti-vaxxers, and I reckon a big percentage of the people who were there had already been double vaccinated. They're pro-choice, and they don't want to see their country go down the hill. So when all this goes south, if it does, mainstream media are going to be changing their tune quickly and pointing at the politicians and blaming them. But I firmly believe that mainstream media, with the politicians and the bureaucrats, will have a very big question to answer when the time comes, and they will not get off the hook. We will not let them get off the hook. I think my role more is to inspire people to do their research, inspire people to realise they do have a democratic right to say no, and to have them live into that right and understand that it's okay. They don't have to hide in the shadows yet. And I want the nation to rebuild the spirit that my dad fought for us to keep, without being threatened or jeopardised. I'm really passionate about that, and at the march, the strike, the Reclaim the Line strike at the Tweed border with Queensland, it was incredible. I was with all these people, and I saw their spirit, and they saw my spirit, and that's what they've seen in the videos that I've made. They've seen that passion that I have for this country, and to walk through 1,000+ people and get a standing ovation just because they see me as some kind of patriot makes me cry, because I thought we all were. Victoria, we see issues in Victoria where draconian measures are being brought in place, and I'm talking to hundreds of police officers in Victoria who are fed up with the way they're being used, and they're not being vaccinated. And they're starting to fight back now. They're saying we can't keep doing this. And I know that if the same demonstration was held in Melbourne, I'd probably be in a detention place somewhere now, being questioned. I feel certain that I would be as a speaker. But on the Queensland-New South Wales border, it was peaceful, it was calm, it was joy-filled. People were feeling a freedom, and they were surrounded by police officers who were engaging with them. There were two police commanders who obviously have high rank. They had a lot of silver on their uniforms and around their caps. And when I acknowledged the way the police were dealing with the crowd, they all waved to the crowd and everyone cheered them. There are videos out there, which you won't see on mainstream media, of protesters hugging and getting photos, selfies with police, shaking their hands, the police smiling and hugging them back. You know what? It was fantastic. It really brought back the spirit that I thought was dead. And it was an honour to be there. I tell you what, I don't know whether it's an advice or an observation. We have immense hope in this country. You know, we're dealing with an issue at the moment, a health issue, which is eminently curable. There are simple cures available. And we're seeing things develop. Every day brings forth a positive development if we only would grasp it with both hands. The thing that's really distorted this whole drama around the world is PCR testing. PCR testing has been acknowledged by Fauci and the CDC, and even the guy who invented it. Is not designed for this purpose. It's being overused. It's being magnified twice as many times as it's meant to be effective. So we're getting false data, more false data than real data. I spoke to 3 GPs. I know a few doctors, and these weren't people that I'm a client of, a patient of, and I just know them, and I said to them, what do you think about this vaccine? And they said, every one of them virtually said the same thing. I wouldn't be rushing into it if I were you. but don't tell anyone I told you. Now that gets the hair standing up on the back of my neck. So then I find out that there's a law passed in Queensland where a doctor who speaks against the government narrative can go to jail for 6 months. And since my rant, I've had so many messages from doctors and nurses and health professionals who've been deregistered by APRA because they couldn't give an informed consent for themselves and they couldn't give the information required for their patients to give an informed consent. They were deregistered. So, I mean, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but that gets me wondering if a doctor is running the risk of losing his licence and his income and his practice if he says the wrong thing, then there's a great incentive for that doctor to tell me what he doesn't believe is true. So I smelt a rat in the cheese factory. I'm surrounded at the moment by paramedics and nurses who are saying that there are people dropping like flies with heart issues and strokes. And when they try and get them reported, it's pushed under the carpet. Now, these are people who are giving their jobs away because they don't like what's happening and they're speaking out. Now, I'm not criticising anyone who's been vaccinated. They have all made their own choices based on their own decisions. But my rationale tells me no. And if I'm being bribed and coerced and forced and bullied to take something, put something in my body, my automatic reaction is I think that's against my best interest. You know what really bugs me is that there's going to come a time where if this goes south, and it's looking more and more likely that it will, if we look at what's happening in Israel and other parts of Europe, this winter's going to be crucial. A lot of double vaccinated people, according to what's happening in Israel, are going to perish. And you know, the sad part is I don't want that to happen to prove that my suspicions were correct, because that means a lot of people have got to die, and a lot of those people may be my friends. So this is one thing I really want to be wrong about, but I'm running with my gut. My sole purpose is to restore the spirit of the Anzacs in Australia in its men, because when men are properly mentored and when they're fulfilled with a passion and the love for this country and they see the world through a different lens, they're men that women and children want to be around. They're men that respect their women and children enough to protect them and to love them. They will take a bullet for their wives and family. And that doesn't denigrate the role of women, because we're all different. Men and women are different, but we're all equal. And so we all have a vital role to play, and we've let go of the reins as men in this country. And I think that has a large amount to do with why we're in this position now. You mentioned earlier who are the voices that I listen to now. It's not mainstream media, obviously. It's not the politicians and it's not the bureaucrats. It's the gutsy individuals who are thinking outside the square and looking at what's possible. Young men like former Senior Constable of New South Wales, Alex Kearney. More integrity in that young man than in 100 men I've met in the last 50 years. Such integrity and such honesty. Lays it all on the line. Suspended paramedic John Larter, who's fighting the New South Wales Health Department and the Health Minister Brad Hazzard. A real voice for Australia. And then we have Christian Mack, we call him Big Mac, who's a teacher who's standing up. He's got 20,000 teachers following him who are saying no. And then there's the doctors, and there's more people coming out, doctors, nurses, teachers, and not only them, but truck drivers and miners in the Pilbara. You know, they're all starting to say enough's enough, and they're coming out. I am overwhelmed by the thousands of people who are contacting me, and Alex and John and Mac are all the same. And we're forming an alliance together. It's come together naturally because people are looking to us for leadership now. I want to appeal to the citizens of this country just to wake up. I want you to think about what other people are putting on the line right now. I have everything, but I have nothing. Financially, I have enough money to keep my wife and I going for a couple of months at best. And I have no income, and I don't care. I'm prepared to give up everything to hang on to our spirit, because the real spirit of Australia means that if I have nothing, then my neighbours will help me. And we see that when we have bushfires, but now we're seeing ourselves degenerating into two classes of people, the fors and the against, and there's a whole population in no man's land between those two trenches that I'm speaking for. And I gave up my job to do that. And Alex Kearney gave up his career in the police force to do that. And John Larter in the paramedics gave up his career. Please don't let us give up our careers for no reason. And Mac, the teacher, I mean, he's putting his career on the line bravely. We're stepping up so you don't have to, but don't hide in the shadows. We've given away our careers and our jobs so that you don't have to, but we're giving you a platform and a voice. So please step in behind us, join us, and tell those that need to know that we're not going quietly into the night, and we want our country back, and we want our freedom back, and we want to be able to live in the world that our forefathers died to protect us from. A world of tyranny and a world where people are locked up in steel cages and surrounded by steel rings, as Senator Jackie Lambie said. We're not going to let that happen, Senator Lambie, and we're not going to do that because we are Australian and we have our rights and we're going to stick to them. And that's where I stand. On that rock I stand with those other gentlemen, and we will not be moved. So stick in there, have your hope, support those people who are making the fight for you. Give us reason to keep going and keep speaking and keep loving and respecting one another. That's all I can say to you. God bless you and stay out of the trees.